I never thought I'd fall into the world of Filipino dating culture with the same wide-eyed curiosity that I approach every new country, but somehow here I was sitting in a tiny living room in Iloilo, clutching a cup of coffee while trying to make sense of what people called Ligaw. Back home, dating is usually a text, a casual coffee, maybe a dinner, and if you're lucky, a cute gif or two. Here, it was like stepping into a romantic drama directed by a team of very polite but determined cupids. It all started when I met Marco at a beach cleanup in Guimaras. He was tall, shy, and kept glancing at me with a kind of nervous respect that made me want to giggle and hug him at the same time. After a brief conversation about trash and how plastic bottles are the enemy of the ocean, he asked if he could bring me some mangoes next week. Now, in America, bringing mangoes to someone that just met sounds like a threat or maybe an odd fruit-based bribe, but here it was apparently normal courtship procedure. I nodded, trying to act casual, but in my head I was screaming, "He's going to bring me mangoes. I think this is a date?" When the day came, Marco arrived with a bag of the juiciest mangoes I'd ever seen, plus a small Tupperware of suman. I opened the door and blinked at him like he had just walked out of a rom-com. He smiled, bowed slightly, and handed me the gifts. "For you?" he said softly. My American brain immediately processed. He just did a formal fruit handover. Is this love? Meanwhile, my Filipino friends behind me were squealing, whispering, and rolling their eyes. "That's legal, girl," one of them said. "It's how it's done, legal." I tried saying it in my head like a mantra. Legal, 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 yes. I could do this somehow. Over the next few weeks, I experienced what could only be described as a full-on Filipino romantic boot camp. Marco would text me good morning and good night, sometimes sending cute memes of animals that looked suspiciously like me, sometimes just sending long, polite messages that made me blush in a way I didn't think I could. Every weekend, he showed up at my apartment with either snacks, flowers, or some small thing that reminded him of a conversation we'd had. One time it was a little notebook because I'd mentioned I liked journaling. Another time it was a tiny paper boat because I had joked about loving the sea. By American standards, this was over the top. By Filipino standards, he was respectful and slow, but totally winning points in the courtship Olympics. Then there were the family visits. Oh, the family visits? In America, meeting the parents usually happens months into a relationship and is typically casual. Maybe a dinner at Applebee's, and there's always a moment when you're silently judged for what you ordered. Here, Marco's mom wanted to know everything about me, what I ate, what I thought of her son, what my family was like back home, what my favorite color was, what I did when I was 5, and whether I could handle eating rice 3 times a day. And if I answered anything wrong, they would correct me kindly but firmly. I tried to follow along, nodding, smiling, and occasionally laughing at my own inability to grasp the subtle social cues of a Filipino household. Somehow, I was expected to be entertained, polite, and slightly intimidated all at the same time. The funny part was that I also tried to teach Marco about American dating culture. So, in the US, we usually just hang out casually first. I explained one evening over Halo Halo at a small cafe. Sometimes we don't even call it a date. We just exist together. He tilted his head, puzzled, and I realized that the idea of casually existing together without small gifts, thoughtful messages, or polite gestures toward one's family was completely alien. "You mean you don't bring food?" he asked slowly. I laughed. "Nope, we might get pizza. Maybe, if we're lucky." He shook his head in disbelief, and I realized that my casual, lazy American approach to dating was considered shocking, maybe even offensive in his world, but also a little funny. And then I laughed again because, yes, it was funny, very funny. Marco's Ligaw tactics escalated subtly. One day, he showed up with a thermos of hot chocolate and said, "It's for you. It's cold outside." I looked at him, completely baffled. It was 32 degrees Celsius and sunny, but it's so hot. I started. He smiled serenely, ignoring my protests, and handed it to me. "Hot chocolate is nice," he said. Somehow, I accepted it. By this point, I'd become accustomed to the gentle absurdity of Filipino courtship, and it was impossible not to love it. Every small, thoughtful gesture carried layers of meaning that my American brain was just starting to decipher. Then came the ultimate test of Ligaw etiquette, walking me home. In America, walking someone home is either romantic or mildly creepy depending on your age and the lighting. In the Philippines, walking someone home is like a full ceremonial parade. Marco insisted on making sure I got home safely, but instead of a quick walk, we ended up stopping at a street vendor for a snack, greeting every neighbor on the way and having a brief conversation about local politics with an old man sitting outside his house. By the time we reached my apartment, I was exhausted, sweaty, and grinning like a fool. It was exhausting but charming, and I realized that the entire process of Filipino courtship was designed not just to woo someone, but to immerse you fully in the local culture and community. I had never learned so much about a town in 1 week of dating. Of course, there were awkward moments. Like the time Marco tried to serenade me outside my window with a borrowed guitar. I mean, the effort was beautiful, the intention sweet, but he had zero rhythm and even less pitch control. Neighbors came out to watch. I clapped, trying to be supportive, while simultaneously hiding behind my curtains to avoid laughing too hard. It's the thought that counts, I whispered to myself, and Marco, bless him, bowed at my window with pride. On the flip side, my American friends couldn't understand any of this. I tried explaining via Zoom. He brought me snacks and flowers, and he called my mom just to ask if she wanted tea. But gasped, "He sounds intense," one friend said, clearly imagining some overbearing suitor. I laughed and said, "No, it's polite, it's respectful, it's romantic, and also hilarious." They shook their heads. "You're living in a rom-com," they muttered, and honestly, I couldn't argue with that. Then there were group events. In the US, you usually meet friends slowly over time. Here, I was suddenly invited to a barrio fiesta where I became the guest of honor for unknown reasons. Filipino men were polite, shy, offering me chairs and snacks, while American men back home would have been too shy or lazy to even RSVP. I realized that Ligaw wasn't just about two people, it was about a whole network of community support, subtle judgment, and collective encouragement. It was dating, but also anthropology, and also comedy. One weekend, Marco insisted we go shopping at the local market. I expected a casual trip. Instead, we wandered from stall to stall. He asked the vendor which fish was freshest, which mango was sweetest, and I ended up holding a basket while he negotiated prices like a seasoned diplomat. He handed me each item with a flourish, and I swear I felt like a queen. I realized in America, we might swipe left or right, maybe send a GIF of a cat, and call it romance. Here, romance involved effort, sweat, negotiation, mangoes, and suman. It was hilarious, it was exhausting, and it was strangely adorable. As the weeks passed, I began to compare my experiences more systematically. Filipino men were slow, deliberate, respectful, thoughtful, and often quietly intense. American men were fast, casual, sometimes clueless, and occasionally hilariously overconfident. In one timeline, I had Marco bringing me mangoes, walking me home, serenading outside my window, and sending sweet messages. In the other, I had texts like, "Hey, wanna hang out?" followed by 3 hours of scrolling TikTok alone. I couldn't help but laugh at the contrast. And yet, I also started to appreciate both systems. There was something cute and charming about the simplicity of American dating, just like there was something magical about the care, patience, and humor embedded in Filipino Ligaw. I learned quickly that every gesture mattered. A borrowed umbrella in a sudden rainstorm, a polite nod to my friends, a small snack delivered at just the right time. By the end of the first month, I realized I had been swept up in a whirlwind of small, thoughtful actions that slowly, inexorably made me feel cared for. And I also realized that I had laughed more in a month of Filipino courtship than I had in years of casual American dating. Marco's shyness, politeness, and insistence on doing things the right way was funny, absurd, and heartwarming all at once. And of course, there were surprises. Like the time I learned that his cousin had also Ligaw someone in the neighborhood using the exact same fruit and snack approach. Or the time I discovered that a neighbor was taking notes on our interactions, probably to teach her children how to woo properly one day. The system was elaborate, community-driven, and slightly ridiculous. I couldn't stop laughing at it, even as I marveled at how it all worked. By the time I left Iloilo for a short trip to Cebu, I had fully embraced the funny, slow, respectful dance of Filipino dating. I could see the romance in every tiny gesture, the comedy in every misunderstanding, and the cultural richness in every step. Back in America, texting someone, "Hey, wanna hang out?" would feel dry and empty. Here, every mango, every suman, every polite message and shy glance carried a universe of meaning. And as I boarded the plane, I realized I was smiling like an idiot, already anticipating the next chapter of this hilarious, adorable, and deeply human love culture.